How's it going, everybody? It's Kirsten St. John. I am the producer and the founder of Zoetic, and today we will be breaking down our newest song, our newest single, Imposter. So let's start from the beginning. We have a very, very short intro that's just kind of like this swell fade in. I think it's a reverse piano. It's a couple of reversed elements here in this intro. Sounds like this.
Okay.
And then we're right in the verse. Okay. The other thing that's in that is kind of funny, I got my vocalist saying okay at the very beginning. That actually did not make the final cut, but it was in there up right until the final mix, and then we decided to take it out so you can hear her saying okay at the very beginning. So that's the intro, and then I'll play the first verse too.
Okay.
There it is.
Where's the interest? When's the next attraction? Be the one they seek. Keep them laughing. Put some coffee out, or they'll stay home next week. I thrown it all away.
The Percussive Plucks, this track here, Percussive Plucks, that's hitting every single chord. And then the synth brass and the electric keys are only hitting some of the chords. So you'll hear all of the little chords here on the Percussive Plucks track. Bum, 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 bum. And then the electric keys, as well as the brass, hits only some of the chords. So see how that's working? So in addition to that, we have our bass. And I think the bass is only hitting some of the time too. Let's hear it. So the bass is hitting even less often than the synth brass. So it's kind of this cool layered effect where all of the chords are being played, but different instruments are kind of coming in and out. And I really like that effect. So, yep, and that's the verse, and then obviously there's vocals on that. I'll play from the second half of the verse.
Keep them laughing. Put some coffee out, or they'll stay home next week. I thrown it all away. Thrown it all away. I thrown it all away.
Cool. So in the hook, what are we adding? We're adding a snap, so it sounds more like a groove now. So there's a snap on, I believe, 2 and 4. And other than that, I think the kick pattern changes. The kick pattern starts to go ba-ba, ba-ba, ba-ba on this hook. Other than that, and the vocals singing the hook, I don't think there's anything really that much different. I wanted to add things in very slowly. I think this percussive synth kind of comes in. And the cool thing about that is that it has a natural, as you can hear, kind of a natural echo delay, like ba da ba da ba da da ba da 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 ba da ba da ba. It has like a little rhythmic thing on it, and that's super cool. So I used that natural echo to my advantage, and that comes in the hook. So that's new now in the hook. That wasn't there in the verse. But other than that, that like little percussive thing that's starting to happen in the snap that's happening, the verse and the hook are virtually identical in terms of instrumentation. Play from the verse again a little bit.
They'll stay home next week.
Here's the hook.
I thrown it all away. Thrown it all away. I thrown it all away.
Isn't that cool with that echo? And then there's like a reversed element, I believe, at the end of this hook, maybe? Yeah, isn't that cool? So that's a reversed piano. So that's a piano track that I took, I bounced into place, and then I reversed it. And that kind of gives it that kind of feeling. Okay, now we're in verse 2. Verse 2 is basically the instrumentation of the hook, with the exception of this high air pad that now is being added in. So let's hear that high air pad. And you hear that really cool panning type thing. That's an effect that just comes on the patch. This high air pad actually is a Logic stock instrument. It's Airways pad, and I absolutely love it. So that pad now is in on this second verse. We got the snap that's continuing to go now. So we're adding things slowly, right? In the hook before it, we added the snap and we added that little percussive synth. And then now in the second verse, we have everything like that. But we're also adding in the pad.
Be engaging. faces, give them everything. Don't convict them, don't be controversial, sing them all to
Here comes the chorus.
Say nothing and then leave the light behind.
Okay, so in the chorus, like it kind of changes a lot. Now we have a bunch of vocals that are doubled.
Say nothing and then leave the light behind.
And now we have these like really expansive pads. So I wanted the chorus to kind of open up and just kind of drop out and be like, wow, this kind of like deep pad feeling. So you hear that's extremely expansive now. And in addition, I wanted like a lot more bass. So now we have 3 basses. Before we just had the pluck synth bass, which is just kind of like an 80s like plucky bass. And we had my favorite bass of all time, the Liverpool bass. But now we have this like dub bass in there. So it's really thick. And there's hardly any percussion. There's these like percussive hits. But I think that's pretty much it. I mean, it basically drops out. That impact. So we go from this like very rhythmic kind of groovy thing to this expansive like drop out chorus, which I really wanted to do. So here we go from the end of the second verse into that chorus again, and I'll play through into the hook.
Sing them all to sleep.
So we got the groove and then it's going to drop.
Say nothing and then leave the light behind. Don't tell them that you're building it all on a lie. Your idol of acclaim won't satisfy. Oh, are you throwing it all away? Throwing it all away. Are you throwing it all away? For what?
I wanted like a obvious transition going into that hook because we're going right back into that groovy thing that we were doing before, right? And so I think that's where I have reverse pianos doing something again. And that was just copying and pasting rhythmically there going into that hook. So now we're back in that groovy hook. So
oh, are you throwing it all away? Throwing it all away. Are you throwing it all away? For what?
And that in that hook, we have these reversed elements again. Reversed, hit, reverse. And that puts some tension and release in that hook. I love using reversed elements. I do that all the time. Did it a ton in our song Worth It as well. Now we're in this third verse. So in this third verse, we have added this instrument called thick synth, which is just basically a thicker synth brass. And we also have those drums that come in. And the snare coming in for the first time. And the bass actually really starts to go crazy in the second half of this third verse as well.
Make them victims.
Thick synth is in. That's this guy. Here comes the snare.
Change their focus. Sin is unimportant. Lead them all astray. Say nothing.
So let's hear that bass line, because that bass line, I mean, I'm proud of it. That and I really wanted the bass line to get pretty nasty in that third verse, and I'm pretty happy with it. And again, the basses that we have layered here, we have like a standard Liverpool bass, which is just like, to me, that is the tone color, that is where you really hear the notes. Then we have this like textural kind of pluck synth bass here, kind of sounds like an 80s 808 bass type thing. So yeah, that's the bass part in that third verse, and then we're right back into that expansive chorus, but this time we have everything in, and we have this new pad part and synth part that's really cool. Chorus.
Say nothing and then leave the light behind. Don't tell them that you're building it all on a lie. Your idol of acclaim won't satisfy. Oh,
that chorus, we now have this really cool high lead part that I like with the pads. Let's see if I can get it with the pads here. Isn't that cool? So expansive. That outro lead is the thing that's doing that high part. I love it. It adds so much depth and meat to that chorus with the vocals going on. There is a vocal harmony at this point too, a lower vocal harmony. And that's that second chorus. I think it hits really hard and I'm happy about it. All right, and then we'll go right into the hook.
Say nothing and then leave the light behind. Don't tell them that you're building it all on a lie. Your idol of the flame won't satisfy. Oh, I thrown it all away. Thrown it all away. I thrown it all away. For what? I thrown it all away. Thrown it all away. I thrown it all away. For what? Every single day.
Okay, I love, honestly, in terms of catchiness, that third time that we do the hook after the second chorus is my favorite part of the song. I just think the instrumentation there is super cool, how things are kind of going in and out with each other. Let's talk about that. You have the drums and the bass kind of holding everything down, and those heavy synths and the brass going bump, 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 right? That's been happening the whole time, but we also have a couple of fun things. So the first fun thing that we have is just this pad that is kind of soaring over the top of that hook that I think is really nice. So that sounds like this. I'm going to play that with the synth brass so you can kind of hear. I think that's super cool how that high pad fits in, just soaring over the top with that rhythmic brass underneath and that hook. And my favorite little part of this section is this like really nerdy, like sounding electric keys part. You hear how now that outro lead is echoing it, but just an octave higher. Isn't that cool? So you have those little runs kind of filling in the gaps. So fun to play and record and write. Isn't that cool how all those synths work together? You have the brass kind of holding down the fort, and then you have that pad soaring above it, right? And then you have the beep nerdy little part there, right? And to me, that really just makes that hook really special. I think it's an underrated part of the song. I think it's my favorite. It might be my favorite part. This bridge, by the way, just has like the thick synths going on here. Let's see. Just expansive, thick synths. A major, non D flat, C. Okay, and then we're in the piano solo. Okay, so that's that bridge. Bridge is pretty straightforward. It's just vocals and then the modulation and then going back. Then the piano solo is, I mean, super fun. That piano solo, I got to go real crazy. Got the pianos. And what I love about that is that the Unicorda Cotton is one of my favorite pianos. It's a native instrument, Kontakt piano. And the texture of this is just absolutely stunning. And that's where you hear kind of the cotton hitting the key. It's that kind of super cool texture. And I combined that with the Grandeur and the Maverick, which are 2 other native instrument pianos. So that's the piano part there. It's just kind of like a 2-handed arpeggio up. Right, I'm not going to explain it because it would take a long time, but maybe at some point. But that is the piano part there. And then I think I have the outro lead echoing that as well. Yeah, so the outro lead kind of reflects that piano part. And then we have the synths all kind of doing just the percussive hits on those chords. And then we have the bass doing that as well. And then we have this like fun little beat that's like, I think it's a kick and a snap. That's a reverse snare, by the way. That's a reverse snare. That's taking a snare, bouncing it in place, and reversing it. Right? And then we have that with that piano part on top of it. Everything stops. So now we're in this loud outro kind of thing. And what you may notice about this loud outro, of course, is the vocoder. I wanted to use a vocoder and we were able to do it. So vocoder, basically, if I just solo Emma's backing vocals, it's just gonna sound like one voice, I think. I thought it all away. And through basically making it into a vocoder, which I'm not gonna show right now, but you just go into the EVOS vocoder synth that comes with Logic, and then you find a way to hook them up. You can do these keyboard chords. I thought it all away. Like that. Okay. So that's what's happening there. The vocoder is a keyboard part, right? I recorded it, but it's hooked to Emma's vocals. We have this lead part that's super fun and cool. I had a lot of fun recording this. Everything else, all these other synths are just doing the chords, as per usual, right? Underneath that lead line. And they're holding out the chords, but the bass is playing the notes rhythmically. And the drums are going along with that bass part. Let's just hear the drums and the bass. Not an easy drum part. Not an easy drum part. I think if someone tried to learn this and cover this on the drums, they'd have trouble with that. The kick pattern's kind of weird. So we have these 4 elements. We have the vocoder. And the vocals, obviously, the vocals and the vocoder. We have the outro leads, B-D-D-B-D-D-B, that little part there. We have the chords, which are played by the synths and kind of held out. And then we have the rhythmic stuff with the bass and the drums. And all 4 of those come together and make the outro. So on the second half of that loud outro, I add in this percussive plucks part. Which is basically synth chords, but they're really percussive now. It sounds so dorky by itself, but it works really well. Right? And adding just that part, that 5th little part in there, it makes it sound like something huge is getting added, even though it's just one additional part. So here's the first half of that loud outro, and then you'll hear the percussive pluck part come in. Here we go. Here it comes. Say nothing at all. Say something at all. Say nothing at all. Say something Okay, so now coming out of that loud outro, first of all, we have the lead vocals, not just the ones attached to the vocoder, but like the actual lead vocals, come back in on the second half of that loud outro. And they come in with these lines, and they're all doubled.
Say nothing at all. Say something and all this will come to an end.
Like that, okay? So it comes in with those lines, right? And other than her voice at the very end, what we have is that outro lead continuing to do its thing, but much quieter. And this quiet outro, and it's fading out slowly. And then we have, now that part is echoed in the piano, but lower. You hear that una corda cotton, that really textural sound in the piano. We got some pretty cellos. That's just a stock cello. Logic, I think. We got a bass. I think that's it. I don't think there's any percussion. And that's pretty much all that's in there on that quiet outro. So let's hear the loud outro going.
Say nothing at all. Say something and all this will come to an end.
Quiet outro. And vocals. That's the whole song, guys. So, I mean, I think I did a pretty good overview. I mean, I didn't go in depth over every single technique, but I think I did a pretty good overview of it. So, I hope that explains the song in as best detail as I possibly can. Obviously, this probably goes without saying, but this is before the song was mixed. So, if it sounds a little bit different than the final version, that's why, obviously. But I hope that you guys got something out of this video, and feel free to follow us on Instagram at Zoetic_music, or on TikTok if that's your jam. And also go check out our music on Spotify. If you haven't actually heard this song in its entirety and you want to hear it without me interrupting every 2 seconds, then go check it out on Spotify.